are joined by Uncle Bill. Very exciting. Bill O'Reilly, best-selling author and commentator. No Spin News. Go check out what he's got there. And also many, many bestsellers. Too many to read off on radio. But the last one was Confronting the Presidents. And you all know the Killing series very well. He's also got the Three Americans tour on kicking off March 30th in Long Island. So, Bill, tell us, let's jump into this, actually, because this was news to Clay and to me. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. You, Stephen A., and Chris Cuomo all under one roof, all talking to the folks. What's going on?
Yeah, you guys got to get out. I got tickets for you if you want to make the trek up to Long Island. It's an experiment. It's my production company, and as you may know, I produced the history tour with Donald Trump. The Dennis Miller O'Reilly show. So we got a big operation that does live stuff. And I said, I wonder if we could put three really different guys together on stage and draw a crowd that is dissimilar. Because today everybody's talking to the choir, And so I put this tour together. It's going to be a blast. I mean, the show's going to be fabulous. And we'll have heavy security, so if brawls break out in the in the audience, we'll be able to get that under control fast. But I'm looking forward to it. You guys may have seen Stephen A. and Cuomo and me on News Nation. We will be on tonight on the pre-Trump speech. So it's a good crew. Those guys are, I see it differently than they do, but we all have a sense of humor, and we're respectful.
Bill, appreciate you coming on. I'm super intrigued to see how this conversation goes. I'm curious on this. How would you assess Stephen A.'s motivations? Because for much of his career, he was a straight sports guy. And not to say that he didn't have interest elsewhere, but he didn't really step aggressively into the political arena. I would say he's been on with me. We've done some conversations last couple of years. Suddenly that has changed substantially. Now, maybe you can say, hey, 2024 is just kind of impossible to avoid the political arena. But to a large extent, he had tried to avoid it. Why do you think he's changed?
Yeah, Terry Bradshaw avoids it. Look, he's 57 years old. He's a very, very smart guy. He's at the top of the heap for sports. How many, Cleveland Cavalier games can you call? So I think he got a little bored with it.
Yeah.
And he has an opportunity to get into public affairs, public policy, because he's so recognizable and articulate, and he's taken advantage of that. And this happened before. People have, melded sports with news, and I think it's a smart move on his part. And he's so articulate that now the Washington Post and all these people are going, well, maybe Stephen will run for president because the Democratic Party doesn't have anybody to run for president in 4 years, so maybe it'll be Stephen A. And I told him on the air, I said, that's because of Trump. Trump opened up the presidency for everybody. And so Stephen A's got a lot of traction with all this, and we'll see what he's got on March 30th, because he's coming up against me.
Bill, if I could direct your attention here for a second, I'm really curious what your take is on all this tariff stuff. We haven't really dove into it yet today on the show. I mean, we mentioned at the top, but we haven't really done our full segment on it. So just by way of prepping everybody for what you're going to say, you got Justin Trudeau, who's talking tough and saying that Trump wants to take over all of Canada, destroy their economy. Mexico tariffs, China tariffs, Canada tariffs, all this stuff. What do you make of this whole thing? Because I think it's tough to keep up with a lot of the arguments and a lot of the specifics.
Well, I know exactly what's going on because on January 2nd, I sat in a cabinet meeting with President Trump and 6 advisors, and they discussed tariffs. So I know what's going on there. It's risky. The stock market's down significantly. People don't really understand what tariffs are. With Mexico, you're basically saying you better knock it off or we're going to break your economy. And I understand that and I support that. Canada, a little bit different. I'm not sure what the ire is. Now, in the cabinet meeting that I attended, and that was at President Trump's invitation, there wasn't a clear definition of why Canada and certain EU countries are going to be punished by tariffs. The overarch is that all of these countries take advantage of the United States economically, which is true. So we buy a lot more gear from them than they buy from us, and their governments make it difficult for us to sell American products in a lot of these countries. That really torques Trump off. He wants that to go away. But in the meantime, he risks higher prices, and that'll be a disaster for him if that happens. And, the trade wars, the retaliation. Little Justin Trudeau is out strutting around today, about what we're going to do, X, Y, and Z. I expect this will all calm down, but there is damage being done to the economy now. And I believe President Trump knows that. He's a gambler. He wants better deals, but you got to watch this on an almost hourly basis.
Bill, I agree with you on tariffs. We'll get into that a little bit on the show. But how would you analyze what happened Friday with Zelensky? You've known Trump for a long time. I would even bet that sometimes you may have gotten a little bit heated with President Trump yourself over different perspectives that you guys may have gotten, crosswise on a little bit. One thing Trump always shows is the guy doesn't hold a grudge, which is so rare in politics, it almost doesn't exist. What is going on here? What was your takeaway from Friday and the subsequent reactions to that?
Okay, so again, I'm right in the middle of this because I know exactly what's happening here. And you're correct. I mean, when I criticize President Trump, I get a call or a text. I got a call in the middle of a football game at Tottenham Stadium in London in October, and he was actually yelling at me. And I said, "Do you realize 80,000 people are hearing this call?" Because I had the phone on speaker because I'm in a stadium watching the Jets play the Vikings, and he's yelling at me. "I don't care. You're unfair," that kind of thing. But a week later, then he's seeking my counsel, and you're right. He's not a vindictive man when it's policy. When it gets personal, though, watch out. Now, Zelensky has not crossed into the personal realm. So don't be surprised if tonight some deal is announced or a few days from now, and then the big Z will be the greatest guy, because that's what Trump does. If he wins and you give him what he wants, then you are the greatest guy. And we've seen it time and time and time again. Now, Zelensky, he's immature. That's number one. Everybody listening to Clay and Buck has got to know that. He's immature. And by that I mean that he's not able to control his emotions. And if you're not able to control your emotions, you're immature. So he walks into the White House, and he's all set to sign this deal. He had breakfast with 11 senators at the Hay Adams Hotel in D.C. I knew about that, and this which drove me crazy when story broke and these pundits go out and said it was a setup. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I knew that was a lie, and I knew that anybody doing any research on that would have found out what I found out, that there was a big breakfast, 11 senators, equal Republicans and Democrats, and it was, look, just go along with Donald Trump. Do not challenge him, particularly in front of the press. That was the advice. Every single senator gave him the same advice, and he didn't take it because he got emotional. And I understand that. His country is suffering. I believe that Zelensky wants to do well by his country. I don't believe he's a corrupt midget or whatever they call him. I don't believe that. But I don't think he's at the status right now where he understands the big picture. He's immature, and he will not accept the fact that Ukraine cannot defeat Russia. Period. They cannot win. No matter how many billions of dollars we send them and EU sends them, they can't win. So you want this to go on ad infinitum? then you strut around. You want to settle it, you're going to have to give up a little bit of territory, maybe 8-9% of your country. It's painful.
Bill, can I ask you, because I think this is really important. The people that you've articulated this well. Clay and I have talked about this. You, me, Clay, we all see this in the same way, which is, I think, just reality based. The opposition to this, is it just opposition to Trump getting a win? Is it just the emotions of supporting Ukraine and putting the little flag on your Facebook page is too exciting for people to give up? Because it seems to me, if Ukraine can't win, and if we don't want to keep paying for this for years ad infinitum, as you say, what is the alternative to what Trump is trying to accomplish right now?
Look, when you see a guy like Murphy, the senator, go out and say what he said about Trump is, part of the Kremlin or whatever, Ukraine has nothing to do with that. Murphy is going out saying, this is what Murphy is saying. I want to destroy Donald Trump. And I'm going to use anything and everything to try to do that. Murphy doesn't know anything about Ukraine. He has no solution to it. I mean, if Murphy sat across from me, do you guys know what would happen? Remember Barney Frank?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I do.
All right. I mean, it would take me 3 minutes to reduce him to a puddle because he doesn't know anything. But he uses this, and so do many others, to try to destroy Trump. Not about Ukraine. It's about getting Trump.
I mean, that is just so cynical, even for Democrats. You got people just in a meat grinder dying in huge numbers on both sides.
You call Murphy up, get him on tomorrow, and
he
say
won't come on. You're right about this.
He won't come on. Of course he won't
come on. None of these guys will come on and actually answer questions because, to your point, we would slice and dice them to such an extent that they would be done.
You don't even have to think about it. All you have to do is ask one question. What's the alternative? How would you settle this? And it's crickets. Yeah. And that Dana Cash on CNN, I used to respect her. She's the one that put him on, and she didn't even ask him that question.
By the way,
that's
Bill,
why CNN is going down a drain. That's why nobody watches it.
No, they have totally and completely collapsed. Question for you that has nothing to do with all the serious things. You mentioned that you were over in London watching a football game. I've done that too. Pretty fun. Actual American football, not soccer. Where should Aaron Rodgers go? And what if he called you for advice instead of President Trump? What would you tell him to do? There's talk that he's going to go to the Giants now.
Nah, he's not going to the Giants. He's through in New York. If I were Mr. Rodgers, who does have some skills left, you got to go to a team that can protect you. And I probably would look at some of the West Coast teams. He lives in Malibu, which is not a great place to live right now unless you have giant fire retardants. But I would probably go to Vegas because Brady owns it, part of it. That's where I'd probably go. You take a couple of guys with you from the Jets, receivers, and you pray that the Raider offensive line can keep you upstanding. You got 4 seconds to throw the ball. He can't move. You need 4 seconds. If he gets 4, he can throw it. So that's probably what I would do.
Bill, I'm actually really curious to hear how this thing goes. We'll have to get you on with Stephen A. and Chris Cuomo to hear how it all goes when you guys get together.
Is the tour
super interesting?
Is the tour are you gonna do some extra cities, or is it just out in Long Island? Are you gonna?
I might do it. We got to see how this works. I'm shooting it, so I'll send you some clips. We got a 3-camera shoot on it. And I got to see, because we're all very busy. And look, I'm 95 years old. I mean, how long can I do this running around the country business? But if it goes really well, then I'll do some other cities. But it just depends on how it shakes. So again, it's March 30th, Sunday afternoon, 3. Because there'll be old people coming to see me. I don't want to keep them up too late. And I promise this will be one of the best shows that you have ever seen. It's better than Taylor Swift. Okay.
I would be there, Bill, but I'm expecting a baby within days of the event, so I think I gotta hug her
No, I
down. But
understand.
Clay
Congratulations
has
to you.
Clay has
Well,
no excuse, and he
I
loves
got to be
Long
honest
Island.
with you, Bill. I like you, but I think I'd rather go see Taylor Swift.
Oh, you're out of your mind. You're crazy. This is so much better. And I may sing. I may,
Oh, no.
I may warble a few tunes. And I'm glad you're having the baby because my kids, best thing I ever done. My son just got into Georgetown
Awesome.
American Government
Congrats.
Master's Program. He's going to be president someday.
We
You wait and
would
see.
not be surprised. Would not be. Does he? Is he also 6'7"? Because that helps in politics.
He's 6'5". He's a lacrosse player. But
There
the
we
most
go.
important thing, he's honest and he's kind. And his personality is not at all like mine, which makes him one lucky guy.
Bill O'Reilly, everybody. Bill, thank you so much as always. Well, let's talk again before the event and make sure we got a big Long Island listenership. Let's make sure we get a lot of folks out there because then Clay's going to make you go to Nashville, and we're gonna take this thing on the road. Thanks.
For sure.
Anytime. Appreciate it. Bye.
That's Bill O'Reilly. If you want to get a really good education, he mentioned that his son's going to be at Georgetown, but you don't have to go to an Ivy League institution or an elite school like Georgetown. You can just go to Hillsdale College's online offerings and find out everything you need to know about World War I, World War II, the Roman Empire, all of these different awesome stories that maybe you didn't pay a lot of attention to when you were in college or when you were in high school. And now you don't have to worry about grades or what time to get to a class. You get to watch it at clayandbuck4hillsdale.com, learning just for learning's sake. That's clayandbuck4hillsdale.com. Get hooked up today. We love the guys at Hillsdale College. clayandbuck4hillsdale.com.